Lionel Messi's obsession would break most people. Messi makes football look effortless, but it's built on an obsession most professionals are warned to avoid. The same motivations, the same corrections every day for years. No balance, no variations. For most people, even elite athletes, this leads to burnout, but for Messi, he did the opposite. And understanding why requires a way of thinking most people can't tolerate. When people hear the word obsession, they think of motivation, passion, and discipline. That fire inside you that makes you want to work harder. But here is how psychologists actually define it. Obsession isn't passion. It is not inspiration. It's more like a mental trap. You tie your entire identity to one thing, and then you can't stop repeating the same behavior until your brain either adapts or breaks. And that is why most high-performance systems warns against it. Because obsession doesn't feel good. It feels narrow, repetitive, and mentally exhausting. It's not some heroic grind you see in motivational videos. It's closer to drowning. And for most people, that pressure eventually breaks them. Here's why obsession usually fails. First, it removes novelty. The brain creates variation, new challenges, new stimulation, and new dopamine hits. Obsession kills all of that. It's the same thing over and over until your brain starts screaming for anything else. Second, it creates identity fragility. When your sense of self depends on one outcome, every mistake feels like a threat to who you are, and that's exhausting. You are not just fixing errors, you are defending your entire existence. Third, it leads to burnout. Not physical exhaustion you can recover from. I'm talking about psychological fatigue, that kind that make people quit even when they are talented, even when they are close to something. That's why every coach, every mentor, every self-help book tells you the same thing. Balance your life, switch up things, protect your mental health, and take breaks. Because if you don't, obsession will eat you alive. Notes: obsession unchecked ends career. And yet, Messi looked at all of this and said, yeah, I will take my chances. Which seems insane until you understand what made him different. Here's where Messi becomes interesting. Because he didn't avoid obsession, he leaned into it. Same risk, same warnings, same repetitive grind that breaks most people. But his response to that pressure was different. Not louder, not more emotional, not the screaming chest pounding intensity you see from other athletes. His own is quieter, narrower, and more internal. And that difference is everything. Because most people think obsession looks like Kobe Bryant screaming at teammates, or Cristiano Ronaldo doing 3,000 sit-ups at midnight. High energy, high visibility, high drama. Messi's obsession looked like nothing. Like a guy standing on a training pitch, repeating the same movements until everyone else got bored and went home. Which is exactly why most people missed it. So what was Messi actually obsessed with? He's not obsessed with winning trophies, not even dominance or being called the greatest of all times. He was obsessed with error correction, tiny adjustments, micro movements, subtle improvements that no one else even noticed. He repeated the same actions for excitement or to reduce friction, to make execution automatic, and to remove thinking from performance. Where most people chase motivation, Messi chased precision. And precision doesn't reward variety, it rewards repetition. This kind of obsession rewires the brain. It shifts dopamine away from outcomes, away from goals, trophies, and celebrations, and brings them towards refinement, towards correction, and towards mastery of process. Which sounds noble in theory, but in practice, it's incredibly boring. Let me show you what this actually looked like. In 2013, a former Barcelona coach revealed that Messi would stay after training, not to practice goals or dribbling or anything flashy, but to repeat first touches. The same ball, the same foot position, the same micro adjustment of his hip angle hundreds of times. Other players thought it was boring, and honestly it was boring, but Messi didn't care, because boring is what most people can't tolerate, and that's exactly where mastery lives. There's another story from his youth academy days. While his teammates celebrated after scoring, Messi would replay the goal in his mind, not to enjoy it, but to identify what could have been cleaner. This wasn't self-criticism, it wasn't insecurity, it was error elimination, a mental habit he practiced until it became automatic. And he did it for years. Most people would call this overthinking, but Messi called it war. Here's the critical difference. Most people need external reward to stay engaged, like praises, recognition, results, trophy, Instagram like, whatever it is. They need proof that the work is paying off. But Messi didn't. His brain learned to extract satisfaction from improvement itself, from getting something slightly cleaner than yesterday. And that requires a very specific psychology, placing low ego attachment, high tolerance for boredom, comfort for isolation, and an identity rooted in craft, not applause. Most people don't fail because they lack discipline. They fail because their psychology can't survive monotony. Because doing the same thing every day for years with no one watching, that sounds like punishment. But to Messi, that was the whole point. You know what's monotonous? Repeating the same touch for hours, for decades, while everyone else is out living their life. But Messi was fine with that, which makes him either enlightening or slightly consigning. Here is the part most people don't want to hear. Mastery is not balance, it is narrowing. It requires sacrificing varieties, simulation, and sometimes relationship, at least temporarily. You can't be great at everything, you have to choose. Most people want elite results without elite psychological trade-offs. They want the trophies without the isolation, the mastery without the monotony, and the greatness without the cost. And that's where they fail. Not at talents, not at opportunities, not even at discipline, but at tolerance. Messi didn't succeed because his obsession was healthy. He succeeded because he could live inside without needing escape. So what did this cost him? Messi is famously quiet, and we all know that, uncomfortable in interviews, and he avoids the spotlight whenever possible. That's not shyness, that's conservation. When your mental energy is consumed by micro refinements, there is not much left for external performance, like social events, media obligations, even relationship. All of that requires mental bandwidth that Messi allocated elsewhere. He described feeling detached during celebrations, like his brain was already analyzing the next match while everyone else was spraying champagne. There's a story about him at a team dinner, sitting quietly while his teammates laughed and told stories. Someone asked if he was okay, and he said, "I am watching film in my head." Now imagine being that guy at a party, not checking your phone, not making small talk, just mentally rewinding a pass from 3 days ago. Most people would call that unhealthy, but Messi called it Tuesday. Most people couldn't live like that. They would feel isolated, disconnected, like they were missing out on life. But for Messi, it wasn't loneliness, it was clarity. The obsession that would suffocate most people gave him purpose. So when you watch Messi and think it looks easy, understand this. The ease you see is built on a mental structure most people would reject. Not because they are weak, not because they are lazy, but because obsession demands a psychological cost that few are willing or able to pay. Messi paid for it quietly, repetitively, for almost 20 years, while the rest of us were trying to find balance. And that is why his greatness looks effortless.